Today is a YouTube hop, so please be sure that you check the description below and please visit the other two demonstrators. They have some great ideas for you with some other card sets. So again, today we're going to be making this card. This is using a Brusho technique, and the stamp set that we're using today is this Winter Woods. It is a lot of fun. It's great for autumn and Christmas as well. It has a coordinating die set that goes with it. And I'm also going to be using a embossing folder today called, it's the Woodland Texture. And I don't know if you can see the detail on there, but that's what gives this card, if you can see this texture. I'm not sure if you can see it in this light or not. But that's what we're going to be using for the embossing on this. Because this Brusho technique, you need a little bit of spritz of water, and this is on watercolor paper. It does need a few moments to dry. So we're going to start with this part. And I'm going to go ahead and pull out a piece of scrap paper here. Had that off to the side. I've got my watercolor paper, and all of the dimensions can be found in the description below. The first thing I'm going to do is take my stamp. It's already mounted, and I'm going to go ahead and ink it up, and I'm using Memento black ink today. And then I'm going to just stamp it in the center onto this watercolor paper where I want it. Not all of it. Some of it's going to stamp off of this panel, and that's okay. See how that's stamped right there, but that's okay. So we have our trees here, and the next thing I'm going to do is pull out the Brusho colors. There are multiple ways to use Brusho, and what I'm showing you today is just one of the ways. So I'm going to start with the red. This is called Brilliant Red, and I have a push pin in the top of these. That just keeps the flakes from popping out or from anything in there to fly out. This, you do not need a lot of this at all. It goes a long way. It's a little bit like salt. So I just have one little tiny hole punctured in mine, just because I only want to put one push pin in the top. And I'm just going to lightly tap. You may not see this on camera, but I'm just getting a few crystals out. And that's on the red. And then I'm going to repeat that same step with the yellow. I'm sorry, this is the orange. Gamboge is what it's called, but it's orange. So again, I'm just sprinkling some of that on here. And then I'm going to move to the yellow. And this card really comes together quick, but it's just so pretty. And I'm just trying to get some of these flakes on where you would typically see the changing of leaves in this season to the trees. I have a spritzer here, and it's filled primarily with alcohol. Rubbing alcohol is all you need. It's got, I think the alcohol I'm using is like 91%, so it's pretty high. And I've filled it about halfway with alcohol, and then the rest of the way with just regular water. It has a nozzle on the end of it. You can purchase these in the online store, but you just want to just lightly spritz onto your paper, and you'll see how that color starts to come out. And I want to be careful here because I want the water to do its job, but I don't want the paper to get too wet. Okay, so then we're going to just set this aside and give this a few moments to dry. I'm going to go ahead and remove my scrap paper here. And now we can go ahead and start putting together other parts of this card. Now this is a card, just the card base. This is a regular A2 size. Again, all the measurements will be in the description below. Okay, so I'm going to take and I'm going to make sure that the ends of my card base are perfectly matched, and then I'm going to take my bone folder and just run that across. Give it a nice crease. And the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and emboss the piece of crumb cake. Now again, I'm using the Woodland Textures. I'm simply going to place this card, or this panel of cardstock, into my embossing folder. I'm going to make sure it's pretty straight. I'm going to close it. And my plates are pretty dirty here, but you have a clear plate on the bottom. You put your embossing folder in the middle, and then a clear plate on top. That's what they call your embossing sandwich. And then I'm going to run this over to the Big Shot, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now you see that we have our embossed image, and there's the embossed side, and then there's what we call the debossed side. And you can use whichever side you prefer. I'm going to be making sure that the embossed side, so the side that pops up from the paper, is facing out to the card. And we can go ahead and layer these few pieces. So I've got my adhesive here. I'm going to grab my silicone mat too, just so I don't get adhesive on my work area. And since this is embossed, I'm using a little bit more snail than I may typically on this panel, because since it's got raised and lowered edges, you just want to make sure it's good and secure. I've got my old olive panel here, and then I'm just centering this onto the old olive panel. We have that, and then we can attach this to the card base. Okay, so you see how quickly this card comes together, and this is really a quick technique. We're going to go ahead and adhere it to the panel. This is our other old olive panel here. Okay, and then I have this copper trim right here. Let's face that so you can see it. I have a piece of this copper trim, and this is so fun. I'm just going to cut it maybe 1 inch total longer than the width of this panel. And I'll grab my scissors and give that a trim. With this particular copper trim, I'm going to be able to just attach it on the back with a little bit of snail adhesive. Line that up there, flip it. I'm going to put just a little bit of snail there, a little bit of snail on this end. Wrap this around. Wrap it around on this side so it sticks. And then you see you have that. Now you could leave it like this, or as you see on this one, I've just created this extra little loop here, but let me show you 2 other things about this copper trim. This trim, let me see if you can, you may not be able to see it very well, but it has, like, you're able to actually open this up if you want. You could leave it just like it is, or it has kind of like a netting, so you could open this up, it stretches out. So that's kind of fun too. So I did do that on this card. I don't know if you'll be able to see the difference because I just did just a tiny bit of it. So here's our current panel, and here's the one on the card, and you might be able to see that I stretched it out just a little bit. So to do that, all I did was I kind of put my fingernail on one end and lifted and just kind of just gently stretched it out. And I just kind of did that all across. I don't want, you could do, it will stretch pretty wide, but I don't want to in this particular case. I just want just a little bit of stretch. And then when you're done with that and have it where you want it, you could grab another small piece and just slip it underneath, tie it off. All I'm doing is just running one little loop through here, like so. And then this way you can slide it along if you want, so you can reposition it in a moment. And then I'm just going to trim this end of that. To adhere this onto our card panel, I am going to put dimensionals on the back of this. And if you want to secure the copper trim a little bit more, you can put the dimensionals right on top. And then we'll adhere this onto the card panel where we want it. So there you have your card. I'm going to grab a piece of Very Vanilla. So I have a little piece here. I'm going to grab my old olive ink. I already have my stamp mounted. Ink it up. And I just want to, I can get it pretty close over to this edge and center it onto that panel. And then we're going to take the excess of this off. You could do whatever you want here. If you wanted to banner cut it, you could. But I just want a little bit of an angle for some interest and something a little different. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it kind of just like so, so that it's kind of a just interesting angle. And I'm going to grab washi tape. And all I did here was kind of, I laid this down, I rolled this out, I just eyeballed it, and I wanted a little bit more than the length of the sentiment. and I kind of wanted a jagged edge on both sides, so you can just tear it. However it tears is fine. So I'm just laying this down sort of below that panel that is up on dimensionals. So on the back of this one, I'm going to use mini dimensionals. Kind of good coverage all the way around since this is a small piece. And then we peel the backings of this off. So now I can just place this where I want it. So there you go. Make sure that that's down. And that is today's card. I will decorate the inside. I haven't decided yet how though, so. And these are different colors. So in this one, I used a Sahara sand with the Mary Merlot. And on this one, I used crumb cake with old olive. And on camera, you might not be able to see much of a difference. In person, there is a difference. The Sahara sand is a little bit lighter, kind of has more of a grayish tone to it. And then the crumb cake is lighter than like a typical craft color. But so you have to let me know, do you have a preference for which card you like, whether it's the old olive or the Mary Merlot? I hope you enjoyed today's project, and please remember today is a YouTube hop, so please be sure that you check the description below, and please visit the other two demonstrators. They have some great ideas for you with some other card sets. Until next time, have an incredible day.